You're on a date. It's going well. You've had dinner, you've laughed at each other's slightly embellished stories, and now you're standing at the front door. The tension builds. You lean in, close your eyes, and enthusiastically press the squishy opening of your digestive tract against the squishy opening of someone else's digestive tract. You then actively swap saliva, sharing approximately 80 million bacteria, encompassing over 700 different species of microorganisms in a 10-second window. You are trading microscopic biological data at a rate faster than your smartphone downloads a software update. And you think this is romantic? If you step back and look at kissing from a strictly biological perspective, it is profoundly, unbelievably weird. Think about it. We are the only animals on the planet that do this with this level of obsession. Sure, bonobos will occasionally use mouth-to-mouth contact to resolve social disputes, and dogs will lick your face because you taste faintly like salt in whatever you ate for lunch. But humans have turned the act of pressing face meat together into the ultimate universal symbol of romantic love. We write songs about it. We make entire movies leading up to one singular moment of lip contact. We arrest people for doing it inappropriately. We build entire social hierarchies based on who is doing it with whom. But why? Why did human beings decide that swapping mouth fluids was the ultimate expression of affection? To answer that, we have to pull back the curtain on everything you think you know about human history. Because the first thing you need to understand is that kissing is absolutely not universal human behavior. Here's the thing nobody tells you about kissing. If you go back in time, or even just look at isolated cultures today, you will find a staggering amount of human beings who think kissing is absolutely repulsive. In 2015, a massive anthropological study looked at 168 different human cultures across the globe. They wanted to see how many of these cultures engaged in romantic sexual kissing. The results were shocking. Less than half. Only 46% of human cultures practiced romantic kissing. In fact, in many hunter-gatherer societies, the concept wasn't just absent, it was viewed with active, visceral disgust. When European explorers and anthropologists first arrived in places like the South Pacific, Sub-Saharan Africa, or parts of the Amazon rainforest, the indigenous people there didn't kiss. When they saw the Europeans doing it, they were terrified. There are historical accounts from the late 1800s of indigenous tribes watching European sailors, locking lips and genuinely believing they were witnessing some sort of bizarre cannibalistic ritual. They literally thought the Europeans were trying to eat each other's faces. The Mihinaku tribe in Brazil reportedly referred to kissing as gross. The Thonga people of South Africa thought it was wildly unsanitary, and honestly, they were right. From a strictly pathological standpoint, swapping 80 million bacteria with a stranger is a terrible survival strategy. So if kissing isn't hardwired into every single human culture, if it isn't an innate, unavoidable biological imperative like breathing or sleeping or eating, where did it come from? Why did a specific group of ancient humans start doing it, and why did it eventually spread like a virus to conquer the entire modern world? To understand that, we have to look inside your brain. Specifically, we need to look at a terrifying little diagram called the cortical homunculus. Your brain does not see your body the way you see your body in the mirror. Your brain maps your body based on sensory input. Areas that are highly sensitive get massive amounts of brain processing power. Areas that aren't sensitive get very little. In the 1930s, a neurosurgeon named Wilder Penfield mapped this out. He created a physical representation of how the brain views the human body, called the somatosensory homunculus. If you have never seen this diagram, I highly recommend looking it up, but be warned, it will haunt your nightmares. In the brain's map of the body, the arms and legs are tiny, shriveled little sticks, but the hands are massive. And the lips? The lips are absolutely gargantuan. Human lips are one of the most densely packed sensory zones on the entire human body. They are packed with millions of nerve endings. The skin on your lips is incredibly thin, which is why they appear red, because you're literally seeing the blood vessels pulsing just beneath the surface. When you press your lips against something, you are firing a massive, overwhelming electrical signal directly into your somatosensory cortex. It triggers a massive release of neurotransmitters, dopamine for pleasure, serotonin to regulate your mood, and most importantly, oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the cuddle hormone, or the love hormone. It is the chemical responsible for deep social bonding, trust, and maternal attachment. When you kiss, your brain floods your system with oxytocin, aggressively forcing you to feel attached to the person you're kissing. But evolution doesn't just give us highly sensitive organs for fun. Evolution is ruthless. Everything has a survival purpose. So why did we evolve lips that are basically high-powered chemical sensors? Because you aren't just feeling the other person, you're doing something much, much older. You're smelling them. When you lean in to kiss someone, you are doing something your ancient ancestors did out of pure survival instinct. You are performing a deeply subconscious high-stakes chemical analysis. Humans have terrible noses. Compared to a dog or a bear, we are virtually nose-blind, but we still rely heavily on pheromones and scent to navigate our social world. We just have to get incredibly uncomfortably close to do it. Enter the major histocompatibility complex, the MHC. This is a group of genes that controls your immune system. It determines what diseases you can fight off and what diseases will kill you. In 1995, a Swiss researcher named Klaus Wedekind conducted one of the most famous and slightly gross experiments in evolutionary psychology. It is known as the sweaty t-shirt experiment. He took a group of men and made them wear the exact same cotton t-shirt for 2 days straight. No deodorant, no scented soap, no spicy food. Just 2 days of pure, unadulterated human sweat. He then put these horribly sweaty shirts into boxes and brought in a group of women. He asked the women to smell the shirts and rate them on how attractive or pleasant the scent was. The results were mind-blowing. The women did not pick the shirts randomly, and they definitely didn't all agree on which shirt smelled the best. Instead, the women consistently rated the smell of a t-shirt as pleasant or sexy if the man who wore it had MHC genes that were completely opposite to their own. Let that sink in. Your nose can subconsciously read the genetic code of someone's immune system just from their sweat, and your brain forces you to be attracted to people who have different immune defenses than you do. Why? Because if you reproduce with someone who has the exact same immune system as you, your child will have a narrow defense mechanism. A single virus could wipe out your entire family. But if you reproduce with someone who has a completely different immune system, your child gets a combined, supercharged immune defense. They become virtually bulletproof. A kiss isn't just a kiss, it's an evolutionary background check. You are literally tasting and smelling their immune system to see if your DNA is a match. If they taste right, your brain gives you the green light. If they taste wrong, the spark dies immediately and you have no idea why. It's not because they said the wrong thing at dinner. It's because your immune systems are too similar and your ancient biology just swiped left on their genetic profile. Okay, so we know kissing releases oxytocin, and we know it lets us perform a genetic background check. But how did we physically get from "I need to smell your genes" to actually locking lips? Why didn't we just sniff each other's necks like vampires? To find the physical origin of the kiss, we have to go back, way back, long before spoken language, long before romance, long before modern dating. We have to look at how ancient mothers kept their infants alive. Imagine you're a prehistoric mother. It's 200,000 years ago. Your baby is transitioning from breast milk to solid food. But there is no baby food. There are no blenders. There is no easy way to mash up tough roots, nuts, or wild game. And your baby has absolutely no teeth. How do you feed them? You do what birds do. You chew the food up yourself, you break it down with your own teeth, mix it with your own saliva, which contains enzymes that actually start digesting the food, and then you press your mouth directly against your baby's mouth to transfer the mashed food. It's called kiss feeding or pre-mastication, and for hundreds of thousands of years, it was the primary way human infants survived. This isn't just a theory. Kiss feeding is still practiced by chimpanzees, gorillas, and many indigenous human tribes today. It is an ancient fundamental survival mechanism. Now, remember the brain chemistry we talked about earlier? The massive release of oxytocin when the lips are stimulated? Over countless generations, the physical act of pressing lips together became biologically hardwired in the human brain as the ultimate symbol of maternal care, trust, and deep, life-saving intimacy. When a baby felt lips pressed against theirs, it meant food, it meant safety, it meant love. It started as pure parental survival. But eventually, over thousands of years, that feeling of deep, biological trust was repurposed by adults. If pressing lips together makes us feel safe and bonded, why not do it with our mates? The kiss evolved from a desperate attempt to keep a toothless baby from starving into a ritual of adult affection. But even then, it wasn't the romantic, cinematic kiss we know today. For a huge chunk of human history, kissing was just a weird quirk practiced by a few tribes in the Middle East and Asia. In fact, the earliest recorded mention of a kiss in human literature doesn't appear until roughly 500 BC in the ancient Vedic Sanskrit texts of India. And even then, they didn't call it kissing. They described it as the custom of smelling with the mouth. So how did it conquer the world? For that, you can thank the Romans. The Roman Empire was obsessed with kissing. They didn't just invent roads and aqueducts, they essentially industrialized the kiss. They had a highly complex, legally binding categorization for kissing. In ancient Rome, there were 3 distinct types of kisses. There was the osculum, a peck on the cheek or hand, usually meant for friends or social superiors. There was the basium, a kiss on the lips, used strictly between family members. And then there was the savium, the deep, passionate, romantic kiss reserved for lovers. The Romans kissed to seal legal contracts. They kissed their emperors, they kissed their friends, and because the Roman Empire conquered half the known world, they brought their kissing culture with them. They aggressively exported the concept of romantic kissing to tribes and nations that had never done it before. But it wasn't a smooth transition. When the Roman Empire fell, kissing almost died out in Europe. During the Dark Ages, the early Christian church decided that kissing was far too hedonistic and sinful. Several popes literally tried to ban kissing entirely. They issued decrees forbidding the savium, claiming it was a pathway to moral corruption. But it was too late. The biological hook of the kiss was too strong. By the time the Renaissance rolled around, romantic kissing had exploded back into popular culture. Shakespeare wrote about it, painters painted it, and eventually Hollywood weaponized it. Which brings us all the way back to your front porch at the end of that date. When you lean in to kiss someone, You're not just participating in a cultural tradition, you are standing at the absolute peak of human evolutionary history. You're combining the ancient, desperate need of a prehistoric mother keeping her toothless infant alive with a highly sophisticated subconscious chemical test to see if your immune systems are compatible enough to survive the next global plague together. You're performing a ritual that confused indigenous tribes, terrified popes, and was weaponized by the Roman Empire. It is gross, it is unsanitary, it is profoundly mathematically bizarre. But it's also exactly what made us human. Let that sit with you the next time you lean in.